You're listening to the Golightly Marshall Hour on freedomtalkradio.net.
Show number 23, due to air in 1 hour and 40 minutes, so we've got to get moving right along so that this can go up.
Yes. It's,
Now, Joel suggested that we talk about all the events surrounding Pope Benedict last year, his announcement, and what was going on behind the scenes, what led to it.
Yes, well, the monster in the kindergarten here, you might say, is this idiot from Canada. He has invented a lot of lies. He's been exposed many times by native people, and that's Kevin Arnett.
Annette.
Yes.
Him too.
That's both of them, is it? I was in Port Alberni at the same time as Kevin Arnett, and he has a very bad reputation of using people. He sets up various websites, and then he'll make a comment on himself, giving himself support as if he's Joe Blow from some foreign country. And he gets a great deal of support. I'd say it's primarily the Antichrist that's doing this, in the sense that when you control the world, you've got to have everything covered. So he's just another shill that has been set up by the Jesuits, and the idea is to make it look like Pope Benedict is going to be the man that's behind all sorts of horrid things that he's saying he's done. For example, child molesting.
No, not child. No, apparently there's an eyewitness from 1987 that names Joseph Ratzinger as having sacrificed a child, ritually murdered a child, etc. I just want to say there's plenty of sites out there exposing the ITCCS. It's a complete fraud. It's all him. The ICLJ, whatever it is, the two associations. One site that you can go to is called stopkevinannette.wordpress.com. Been archiving, there's lots of archives there that go back for years, and you can read the written reports that go back years of natives themselves who have experience with this man. The guy's a sociopath. He's completely lost the plot, it would seem. And all of the support that he is rallying is just him. Everything that you read about the ITCs, apparently, according to these ones that are exposing him, which he turns around to threaten and all kinds of things, it's all him. The court is him. It's one man. He changes his name. He has several aliases, and he is the court. Now, the litmus test for anybody walking in the truth, we've said all along for many years, even before Pope Benedict made his infamous announcement that the Christ is returned in Leonard Golightly Marshall. Long before that, we have been saying to the world of the stressed out, the world that is seeking truth, part of the world that is seeking truth, and those that think that they have found it in every other rabbit hole that is out there, that the litmus test for walking in the truth is the announcing that the Christ is indeed returned in Leonard Golightly Marshall. It really is that easy. You would expect it to be, wouldn't you? There is so much confusion. Clouds, if you like, clouds of confusion. So yes, he's coming in the clouds. Well, it is. It's all confusion. He's speaking truth, revealing it all, measuring his temple. It really is very simple. So, with everything else going on, all of the distraction, we have got a planetary system coming in. Since the people are so distracted, this is as easy as it gets. One mind, the image of God. The white race is the Adamic race, the sons of Noah. They are the sons of God. You're not a son or a daughter of God if you're black, yellow, or any other colour. Sorry, it's the way it is. However, that does not mean that you do not get to live upon his earth in paradise. What it means is that white race was given the responsibility, the intelligence, the creative power, and they were the line in purity from Noah that was preserved to bring forth the chosen, which are the Essene from Enoch, whose grandson was Noah. Do you understand? So all of the lies out there, but the Jews, the world is waking up. We don't have to go over it anymore. It's all out there. Benedict is an Essene. He is the reincarnate of the Apostle Peter. Now you only have to read some of the letters and encyclicals and all of the sermons and what he has written. Go back and do a bit of research into the history of Joseph Ratzinger, what kind of a boy he was, and then a young man in university, and then as he was maturing as a teacher during the 1960s, I think it was in Regensburg then, or a German university. Okay. And it talks about how he couldn't handle it. What couldn't he handle? He could not handle the really rather volatile, at least, vile sentiment of the students who were throwing off literally all restraint. Benedict couldn't handle it as the nature of the man that he is. He is a lamb. Okay? Now, people are making comments, and he has been ill over the years. So the darkness around his eyes, he has looked very ill. When he first started communicating with us, he resigned for the reason of his health. That was it. And because he felt he could not do it, he, at his age and in his condition of health, he could not do anything about the condition of the church that he knew to be the filth.
He said the filth of the church.
The filth within the church. He couldn't do it.
We're talking to his office for days at a time, and he would sit up in bed waiting for my response to his emails when he got through his daily chores of saying Mass and doing the things that you've got to do in that position. He would sit down with his computer and he'd type me a letter in a series of questions or responses to previous emails that I'd sent to him. And he was very, very humble about the whole thing. And he told me that it was the filth of the church and that he was ill. He'd had a bad fall in, which I believe
Mexico the year before.
Yeah, this is in Mexico. He broke his wrist and he was suffering aches and pains from every joint. And he asked me if I could heal him, and I said, yes, of course I can. So I did. And I gave him, he instantly healed, but I gave him a whole health resume for the office, and they all adopted it because the food is poisoned, as you know. In fact, all of Europe has got a great deal of radiation going into it, and especially since the Fukushima. And this is what I've been trying to stress to you all, is that it's in your food, it's in the air you breathe. I've even done a little upload on how to get two magnets and put them two south poles together with a bolt through these magnets you can buy on eBay from China, and so you get a positive field on the outside, or the other way around, a negative. Do it two north poles together, and you'll get a south pole field, because the plutonium is what it's all about out of the MOT fuel that I was using in reactor 3 on Fukushima. It went into meltdown within a week of the initial tsunami, and that produces a very small 1 10% of a billionth of a metre. So it's 1 nanometre divided by 10. That's how small this plutonium is, and that's why it's so dangerous. 1 pound of it in dust form in that small micron can kill the world. So it gets into your lungs, and it's coming in as a positive charge because it's up in the clouds and it's getting a static electricity, so it becomes positive. So the only thing to keep it away from you is to have a positive magnet around your neck, and if it gets into your lungs, and I believe the latest report is if you're living in North America, you're getting 5 hot particles per day. You breathe in 10 cubic metres of air per day, so there's 1 hot particle for every 2 cubic metres, and it's going to get worse. So the only way to protect yourself from that is to put a magnet around your neck, and it'll pull. If you've got it in your chest, for example, it's already in your lungs embedded, you can put a South Pole on your chest and it'll pull it out, because it's basically so tiny it'll penetrate straight through your skin. So it is an easy cure. But of course this is going to be the best kept secret of all time, and you've got to get out there and make it go viral. Tell them people. You don't have to tell them it's me. I don't really care in that sense, because those who are mine, and it makes no difference. You're not going to join the club. You're either in or you're out, because once you've come to this earth at this time, you are reincarnated to be judged, not to be won over to my particular belief, right? So it's not a new religion, it's not a new second chance. It's the people that are with me, that are already preordained to be with me, and that's it. And that's why there's not so many. Now, unless you do it, I'm going to have to do it. Now, it's not going to be a pretty sight, because my angels are on the way. They're almost here. They're coming on the Kachina prophecy. They're on the planets that are coming back, and they talk about the Anunnaki and all this crap they go on about on the internet. Well, they are real planets that are coming in with this Nibiru planet, and rather dwarf sun. And there's 7 planets coming along, and the 2 main planets, the red and the blue Kachina, is where the angels dwell. So they are not going to be very pleasant to the people that are full of demons. They're going to be wiped off the earth. There is a prophecy that says, fear him that can kill both body and soul in hell. Well, you're in hell. This is why I've come here. I've come to hell, where all these abominations of the Yehuda, which are false Jews. You take, I was speaking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he liked Jews until he started talking to me, and I told him that the secrecy of the rabbinical area, and how they're not Jews anyhow. These people are Khazars out of the area of Russia. 800 AD is when they adopted the Judaism out of Babylon. So it's a Babylon's occult secret religion that they've adopted. Before that, they were a phallic serpent cult. So this is why when you go look at these idiots in Jerusalem, they're bobbing back and forwards, and they've got these curls down either side. They represent serpents. So that's the serpent occult religion that they are into. So they all have to go. I wouldn't have one living next door to me if I had a gun. It's as simple as that. So you really have to take drastic action. If Obama, he's got to be taken out. You've got the Queen and the royal family over there, and the people that protect her, they've got to be taken out. They are not going to. You may as well do it, because if I've got to do it, it ain't going to be pleasant, right? Arrest if you have to, but take over the governments. March on all governments around the world, take them on, and get your army. See, the army itself, Obama is asking his higher command, would they be prepared to shoot Americans? Well, if they aren't prepared to shoot Americans under his command, he gets rid of them. So you're ending up with a hierarchy of Pentagons, etc., that are evil bastards. Right? Now, they're all skull and bones controlled, dominated. If you go back to George Bush Sr., he was head of the CIA and skull and bones. He becomes president, skull and bones. His son becomes president. Whatever moron that is, you've got no idea. But we're all skull and bones. Kerry, skull and bones. So how is it, in my mind, I can't understand it, I can't get my head around it, how a Christian nation could elect a devil-worshipping cult to run your country. It's just got me beat. You can fix them all with a 25-cent piece of lead, right, with a bit of gunpowder behind it. It's called a bullet. Right, I cannot understand. You take a good man like Kennedy and you shoot him. And where did that come from? It come from because he wanted to go into the Israelis and who were developing nuclear weapons. He wanted to keep an eye on it because it's supposed to be for peaceful means. And what have they done? They've come up with a Sputnik virus, which is a CIA, skull and bones, and it's in all of your nuclear reactors. Now, there has been word out there that they were planning another nuclear disaster on the 22nd of June. Now, I've been doing the positions of the planets for that, and by exposing it, which I'll do in an upload shortly, it's just a short one, it shows you the position of the stars and what they all mean. When I say stars, we're talking about not the constellations and that, we're talking about the planets, because these were regarded as stars by the people that observed them in the Magi and so forth. So, getting back to the Pope, he is an absolute saint, but surrounded by demons at all levels. And how they did it was in Pope John the 23rd. He was the first Freemason to bring in fully the change to Vatican I, and Vatican II is an abomination that lets the Jews in to control everything. So what do you got in there now? A Jesuit. Now, before the conclave, the Pope announced me. Now, he was the highest ranking official in the Catholic Church at that time, irregardless of the fact that he announced his retirement. He still was the highest ranking person, the authority of the church. That's why they have a conclave, to get someone else to take his place. Well, they hadn't taken his place by the time he was announcing me. So therefore that would have been, or should have been, the end of it. Now, had he been able to announce me while he was still Pope, it would have been a big difference. Or had Francis, after he was presented with the good news of what Pope Benedict had been doing, was talking to Christ in Australia, then that would have been his opportunity to turn around and say, okay, if he was really for the good of mankind, he'd have investigated me. But he didn't. He just, in 45 minutes, just said, nah, that's it. And actually started to make a joke about the fact that it was an Australian man that was Christ.
It was 5 days later that it was confirmed. And it was confirmed by the other traitor in the story, Archbishop George Ganswain, when Father Giuseppe, who I was communicating with through Facebook instant messaging, I asked him, I said, what is Archbishop George saying about Francis and his mind? And at one point he said, I think he's just coming to terms with the fact that Christ has an Aussie, like Jesus has an Aussie accent. So that was a laughing moment. That was within about 2 or 3 days, I think, from the meeting on the 23rd of March. But then 5 days later, 2 days after that, I again asked, and Father Giuseppe phoned Archbishop George and said, you know, what's going on? Where is the mind of Francis at? And George's response was, sadly, he will not accept it. So that, and the Christ, of course, knew it all along. That's why he was saying it doesn't matter who walk out. It will be the biblical Antichrist, and the bullet will save the world a lot of grief. But we have to go through this fulfilling of all prophecy, the fullness of times. Everything has to reach its fullness. So we, after learning of Benedict's house arrest, Giuseppe confirmed indeed he is a prisoner of the Vatican. He knew immediately, the Apostolic letter was to be released on the 24th of March. There was a delay getting it finished because Pope Benedict, he writes everything by manuscript, handwriting. And Giuseppe was the one that realised, oh my God, it has to be translated into English so that, because they told us we would have it on the 24th, they would send us the copy of it and then release to the internet for our disciples. And it was Giuseppe, he said, there's been a glitch. I'm going to have to translate it into English so that we can upload it for your disciples. Please forgive us. Well, he worked for literally 48 hours translating the original manuscript into the document that was released on the 26th of March. Now, what is significant about the 26th of March is that it was the laying down of the foundation to the Great Pyramid, the altar to the Lord in the midst of Egypt in the year 2888 BC. So the mathematically, yes. Everything is synchronicity, and it happens with us. We will work on things that don't get out there when we think they should. However,
just to comment on that, we're looking at how we come to that date. It's Julian day 666666.666, 6 a.m. on that date. That's a confirmation in the stars, if you like. The actual pyramid was built before the flood, so it's 7,000 years old. So this is what that's all about. The builders of it were the descendants of Enoch. Enoch was an Essene, the oldest religion, because it's all truth that's brought to you from the stars. That's why you can go into the book of Job, who was an actual figure, spoke Aramaic. If you look in your Bible, it's written in Aramaic, and the original is not written in Hebrew. And Methuselah lived a very long life. And of course, once the pyramid was built, then the flood came. That is why around the Sphinx itself, it was the rejected capstone, because this is a prophecy. The structure was built, laid out on 100 solar years, so 36524.24 pyramid inches. That's 100 solar years, when one pyramid inch equals a day. So then they shrunk it inwards. This is the Solomon part, who takes on Moloch and the present day Jews, and the Bohemian Grove, for example, is 3091 nautical miles from the North Pole, and it's in California, just near the coast above San Francisco. So San Francisco, Sodom and Gomorrah, and that number is Lot in the Greek New Testament. But it's also Joshua in the Old Testament. So here you have your Joshua, which is the same name in Greek would be Jesus, but it's not to be confused with one with the other. However, it was Joshua who defied the ramblings of the God of Moses not to go into the promised land, but he went anyhow. As soon as Moses dropped dead, he was across into the promised land, back over the Jordan, where they already come from Egypt. They had to cross through the Holy Lands to get there, across the Jordan. So it's all these codes. It's not literally something that happened. It's just a story. But the story is such written by idiots, and they make all these mistakes along the way. So there are parts of the Old Testament you can rely on. Genesis is reasonable. Job has been altered. Isaiah has been altered, but you can get enough out of it by the codes that was incorporated into the actual language when it was put together. So it's only I can sniff it out and figure out what it is to give you some idea what's going on. But the reality is that I should be able to get onto the internet anywhere, and I challenge all the people listening here, go to Wikipedia and put my name in there, Brian Leonard Golightly Marshall, as being one of the Antichrists, because there is a section in there that is...
people who claim to be Jesus.
Claim to be Jesus, right? So what is that site, Joel, do you know?
It's just Wikipedia.
But is it people who claim to be Jesus under the...
Yeah.
Okay. So you just put in there, and Wikipedia, the idea of it is that you can go in there and put your opinion on, especially if you're a scientist. You can go in there and say what you like. And if the Jews approve it, it stays up. If it don't get approved by the Yehudi, false Jews, it is taken down. So we've had what?
Now,
20 minutes maximum we was on there?
wait on. Now, I just thought of something. With that site, they say over and over and over, you have to have outside references, blah, 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 all the rest of it. Go and try it now with the outside reference being the apostolic letter, the link to the apostolic letter. That is the outside reference. See if it sticks then.
It won't, but still, you try it.
Try it, because you see, the information that the Christ brings forward is from himself, as you would expect. There's not Time magazine or anybody else affirming what he was saying. Hello. But you do have the likes, and I'm thinking about the idiot over here in Kingaroy. Well, he's been featured on the national TV, 60 Minutes or something here.
In London, he did a London tour.
Oh, he did a London tour, and he was interviewed all over the place. So he has those as outside. He has well, you're looking for this.
Yeah.
You're looking
he was
for
asked,
your
how come he
scapegoat.
thinks he's Christ? He had a dream, didn't he?
No, he said his mother told him.
Oh, his mother told him. Wow, fair enough.
When
She probably said, for Christ's sake.
I think, anyway, I don't know, because...
Oh, man, there's
But anyway,
lunacy out there.
the revelation, of course, of the Christ is in the measuring of his temple, nowhere else, not in
It's got to be the royal line, and the true royal line is actually in a code in the King James Bible, because King James was the first true line of kings that was anointed upon the rock of the scone, which is Jacob's pillar, 28:11 in Genesis. Now, that is accurate. So this stone is to whoever possesses it and is anointed king upon it has a divine right, and that's where the divine right of kings comes from. So because his mother was beheaded by Elizabeth, then William Shakespeare, who's the pen name of Edward de Vere, he influenced the Queen, the Virgin Queen, and she was very proud of being a virgin. So there's lots of talks about she's the mother of Edward de Vere or the mother of Francis Bacon. Had twins and all this. Oh, it's all this rubbish. She was so ugly a chimpanzee wouldn't mate with her, so don't worry about that. She was certainly a virgin. But on her deathbed, she didn't want to go to hell, so Edward de Vere convinced her to nominate the son of Mary Queen of Scots, who was the true queen. And this is how he became King of England. So while the first things he did as king was to authorise the King James Bible. But the King James Bible had to be tweaked a little bit. So he wanted to read it, and he and William Shakespeare got together and they tweaked it, and then he put in it a code. Now, being a king, he would know who the true royal line is, and the true royal line was Golightly. So he knows how to spell. So the gematria for English for Golightly is 115. So he made a code up, and the code was the word Sabbath. So Jesus said, I am the Sabbath. So he knows that when Jesus comes back, he's going to be the comforter, and that he's got to have some way of being identified by the Bible. And what he did, he took the word Sabbath, he made all the spelling of the Sabbath in lowercase, and he made 115 to fit. Now, there may have been more, there may have been less. And this is what the King and Edward de Vere, William Shakespeare did. They tweaked it. So if, let's say, there was an extra Sabbath in there, or an extra 20, who knows? And he brought it down to 115 to line up with the name Golightly, to give you the king's name. So this is the kind of thing that I've been putting out there for years. Now, the point is, I've always said that if in an honest world you're waiting for Christ to show up, you should have in every post office of the world a Christ application form. And you walk in, fill it out and say, right, what's your credentials? Are you royalty? If you're not, well, that gets torn up and thrown in the bin. But keep all the ones that are royal. And then you say, well, which royals are they? Are they true royals or not? Well, with my family, it's not only is it the true royal of Scotland, it's the true royal of England, through the Habsburgs, which is the Harrison line, which come over in 847 before the Habsburgs fell into disarray and temptations of the devil, which was the problem at the time of the First World War and the Second World War with Hitler. Because he saw the bankers and the royals living high on the hog, and the people were starving. That was supporting them. So that's what Hitler was all about. Now, Hitler was a saint, right? So, as I cannot get onto the mainstream media, all you hear about Hitler is what an arsehole he was. In actual fact, there's thousands of people that went through the Holocaust that didn't happen because there was no Holocaust. It just didn't happen. And you get people, there was a priest who was coming out to Australia just a little while ago, and he's a logical man. He looks at the evidence and he said, well, he doesn't see the evidence of the Holocaust. Based on that, there's been 100 groups of Jews around the world that are protesting and cause the Australian government, which are also demonised, to stop him coming to Australia to do a tour this month. Right? They're fearing that he's going to come out because we've contacted him. That he's going to come out and talk to me. This is what it's all about.
freedomtalkradio.net.
So truth is the thing that's suppressed. That's why the words were in the New Testament, the truth will set you free. Well, what's it setting you free from? All these bloody lies of these bastards that control all the media. Now, I've said to you before that they're poisoning you with your food. This is out of the protocols of Zion, that this is what they're going to do to you. Not only do they get you with the food, they get you with the air, they get you with the clothes you wear, they get you with the soap powders that you use in your washing machine. They get it with your smart meters that give you a radiation in the house. They can spy on you through your internet connection and through your webcam. They can listen to every keystroke and watch what you're doing. Right? They can see what you're writing on the screen because that is, well, as you know, all these computers are connected together. And you cannot buy a computer. It's against the law to buy a computer unless it can be backdoored by the government. So you don't have to worry about whether your emails have been tampered with or not. They can see you writing the damn things. Right? Now, that gives you Pine Gap. Then it gives you, which was a Tesla invention, really. Pine Gap, I met a fellow in a very strange way. He said that he had been working in America and got radiation poisoning, and then he came back to Australia. He was a brilliant physicist, and he was offered a job because if he had top security clearance with America to work at Pine Gap, which is all Americans. And he said to me, what do you think's out there? And I said, well, I think it's got something to do with the emails. He said, oh no. He said, that is so. He said, but the thickest part of the Earth's crust is in Australia. And it's like a plate, upside down. Underneath Australia, there's these gigantic subterranean chambers of water, fresh water, and under Pine Gap itself, there's a link to the sea. Now, that's 555 miles from the coast. He said you could put every ship in the world in there. There's an entrance along, it's called Bass Strait. It faces Antarctica. He said it's gigantic. He said what they do is they cause the 8-kilometre mile antenna they drill down into the Earth's crust there to vibrate. And that vibration can cause weather changes. So we had 18 years of drought here, unheard of in Australia. And as of this moment, the farmers, it's the biggest on record of people committing suicide are the farmers. Some people have been on the farms for 150 years in their families. And then finally the farms, not only are they not producing, but if they have cattle, then this idiot who was bitching about the cattle being butchered in Indonesia, which is called halal, they've got to do it in a certain religious way, and it doesn't hurt the cattle at all, right? Whereas they do it in Australia, cattle are pushed through in a line into the abattoirs, and then they fire a piston with a cylinder pin on the end into their brain and kill them. Now the cow behind it, or the beef behind it, usually males, they see it, they can smell the death, they can smell the blood, and they're in a traumatized state. Why is that good for the insanity of it? Because the laws that set these things up want you to be eating beef that has had the fear adrenaline put into it. And this is what happens. The endorphins of the brain of the animal goes into the bloodstream, and they're panic stricken, and that goes into the meat. And because the meat is not bled dry, they just kill it and then they butcher it. So the beef that you're eating in McDonald's in America, for example, mainly it all comes from Australia. So you're eating this highly agitated state of beef that is getting into your bloodstream and causes you to be able to go to war. And then, God bless America, they allow pornography by the bucket loads to be distributed throughout the armed forces, and that's why these men who go into taking over places like Iraq, they start raping women, right? Because they are indoctrinated, they're infested with these demon thoughts. They're also infested with vaccinations. Now, this is your army in America. Bring them home. If you're going to do anything, killing, well, you've got a whole Senate full of people you can start with starting off with Obama. Get rid of these bastards. Now, I'm going to do it. Now, the second question you've got to ask yourself, if I can make threats to Obama, which I've been doing for years, and to all of the people like the Queen, why aren't I killed myself? You take MI6, these people are assassins, they're murderers. Look what they did to Lady Diana, right? They killed her. It was a sacrifice in the Albion Tunnel. And if you have a look at the records, it shows that this was a place where they used to sacrifice to the goddess Diana, right? Exactly where she was killed, on the 13th pillar, right? So naturally the car that they were used to kill her was an MI6 setup. The car itself had been in the shop and for a week or so, and I think that it's pretty certain that they had a detonator in the tyre, the front tyre, and as it's going past the 13th pillar at 65 miles per hour, they just detonated it with people on a motorbike as it went past. And at the same time, they had a light cannon to fire into the eyes of the driver. It's so bright that you can't see it. It probably even blinds you permanently. But the crash then occurred. The guy, one of the guys that survived it, sitting in the front seat, he suddenly had a loss of memory. Well, he had a loss of memory, all right. In other words, you talk, you're dead. That's how they operate in England. Right? It's always been the same way. You step in the toes of the royalty, they'll kill you. Right? The Queen is the wealthiest woman and the most powerful woman, and signs death warrants every day of the week for the people that's being executed around the world in these 100-odd countries that she controls. So the evil of it. So I go back to this. If Christ is showing up in the mind of the masses that has been bullshitted by your religious people that's in charge of the pulpits, they're saying he's coming in the clouds, or he's coming as a spirit. We have Jehovah's Witnesses bashing on the door every bloody week. Well, they don't come anymore because we put the run on them. But they themselves believe they are Christ. Jesus ain't coming back. Well, they're right. Jesus ain't coming back. It's God that's coming back. Right? Because Jesus, the soul of Jesus was Yahweh. He's coming back as the Holy Ghost, which was the reason why my mother, Daphne, was unable to have intercourse because being a Catholic, due to the fact she spent 13 months in hospital with my sister, half-sister, that she was told directly by the doctors not to have any more kids. Why? Because they knew that when all the stars line up on January the 11th, 1944, that Christ was coming. And it had to be through the royal line of Golightly, because the King James Bible identifies it through the Sabbath numbers. So what about the Catholic Church? Well, the Catholic Church, in their evil ways, the amount of people they burned at the stake, can you imagine? All right, let's say you had me as king tomorrow. Would I burn anybody at the stake? No. Absolutely not. What would I do with the likes of Obama? I'd lock them up. As simple as that. What would I do with Prince Philip and Prince of Wales, Charles? I'd lock them up. They're insane. Right? You can't do anything about it. Maybe you can fix them. I doubt it. I think they're all demonised. But as I say, if righteousness was to rule the earth, you'd have an application form in the post office, as I said before. Because you want the newspapers, hey, Christ is back. Well, I've been to every newspaper in bloody Europe and Australia, and they don't want to know. They don't even know if I'm the Antichrist or not. They don't want to know if I'm just a false moron that is like this Australian guy that did the tour of England because his mother said that she thinks he's Christ. I don't think that's a true story, but I think he's just a lunatic, right? But the world is full of them. So why not have something simple like a pope that announces it? For the first time in living history, a pope has actually said that he has met Christ. Then you go to Israel and you've got Yitzhak Kaduri. What did he say? Jesus was the Jewish Messiah. These people aren't Jews anyhow. That's the whole bloody point. There's not a true Jew in Israel. The first people to accept Jesus were true Jews of the tribe of Judah. You have to be a relative of the tribe of Judah. You just can't walk in and say, you're an Idumean and I'm going to become a Jew now, because that's what happened. The Idumeans were descended from Esau, not from Jacob, and they decided that they were going to take over the temple, which was the temple of Yahweh, and they thought it was the temple of Solomon. They're too stupid to know the difference, because it was built by the decree of Cyrus under the time of Darius when he was king, the Persian. Right? And it was a people, the Essenes, returning from Babylon, who built the temple. Now, you ain't going to have any Holy Lands. You're not going to have any Europe, and you're not going to have any America. Why? Because they're killing you with your foods, number one, with your atmosphere, the chemtrails, and added to that little particles of plutonium coming out of Fukushima, which was the mot fuel in reactor number 3, which is a combination of plutonium and uranium used as fuel, which they only ever used it before that as nuclear weapons. It had been banned by treaties not to be used especially in Japan. They had a law passed that they would not be installing this stuff, yet they still installed it. Who did it? Israel. This is what it's all about. So how about a little bit of truth out there instead? Like, send a couple of hundred bloody people over to talk to me, right? I'll talk to you for half an hour and I'll convince you that I am Christ. It's as simple as that. Right? All we need is honest people. We've got it written in the stars, we've got it in the Bible, we've got it in my genetics. It's an amazing thing. I even, myself, although I've done all this over the years, I've done thousands of proofs, if you like, in the way of Bible numbers and references and locations and distances and so forth from here to there. You would think that God would create the earth in the way that they created buildings in the old days, or if a king was to build a city, everything would have his name encoded in it in some sort of gematria in Hebrew or whatever the language they were speaking. So the cubit, for example, if there was a height of a wall around the city, it would be the name of the king in cubits. Now, wouldn't you then think, where would they get this idea from? Well, the idea came from the fact that the creation itself, in the original, oldest of references from the Essenes, it talks about that God made everything on the measure of the man. Right? I think that's also in Revelation. Don't get me wrong. I haven't read the Bible. Right? I'm not a religious man. I just look at it from the facts of saying, well, what is true and what isn't true? What is in the Bible, what's influencing you? Is it verifiable? So I have not read any of Paul, because that's a false apostle, right? I've read very little of the Old Testament. I haven't even read the book of Isaiah, right? There's not one Bible chapter I have read all the way through. Not one. I know what I said. I don't have to see if I can get confirmation in the bloody Bible that's put together by Lucifer, do I? What's the point? The Quran, it's full of shit. Bullshit, all of it. So, what more can I say to you? Wake up. Because the angels are coming in. Now, the ones who aren't on my side has got a problem, I can assure you. It's all you adults. All the children will be all right. There'll be lots of angels. There's millions of angels coming. They'll be the foster parents to raise these children up in the proper way. Now, why is it so important? Why is there all this suffering? Blah, blah, blah. You blame me for everything. Anyhow, so I'll tell you what it's all about. It's about the millions upon millions and millions of planets out there, the many mansions in my Father's house. Well, I am the bloody Father. And they're all going to be populated, and the creation is going to occur on each of those planets in a full creation. In other words, people will wake up one morning, the whole thing will be as if it's been going on for thousands of years, when in fact they will be educated by angels to say, look, see a little star over there in the distance? That thing is not a star, it's a galaxy. Right? That's where God is, and this is his story. That's what the word his story is, history. It's all based on Christ, it's all based on God, it's all based on Jesus, it's all based on Yahweh. All the same. One thing I'm quite amazed at the moment is you are amazingly quiet. You haven't said a bloody word.
Well, I've just been chatting with Catherine.
Oh, good.
Yes, it's marvellous.
I'm glad I held your interest.
I'll bet you do.
Leave my hair alone.
Oh.
You little karate chop out of that.
Oh, yes, whatever he said.
It says never cut their hair and never let women touch it.
Yeah. So, where are we at? We've got...
We're in a very, very dire straits where you're at.
Totally. The world is screwed. Totally. As you know. And...
what are they saying in America now? They're making governments coming out, oh, it's all right, there's hardly any radiation difference, all above the levels, it's okay.
And they're allowing Mexican immigrants through the border.
Mexicans
and
coming
the immigrants themselves, the illegal immigrants, are telling the border guards, you will not hold me, you will let me go, I'm going to my sister, and your government is going to look after me. It's happening in every nation. Joel was telling, we had lunch yesterday with our two friends in, aside from Joel and Chuka, and a couple down in, anyway, lunch yesterday. Peter was telling us of what happened to a group of four men and a woman who lived together in a house as, renters. They just rent rooms, and but they were having a meal at a pub in Melbourne. Recently, outside there were a gang of 40, he said, black people from Africa, recent immigrants, and the group was set upon. Each one of them was bashed. One remained in the pub, he didn't go out. Each one was bashed to severity. The good news is that Fred, who is the artist we've talked about before...
Well, he had scars on his face and a big lump on his head.
2 days after the bashing, Peter phoned Fred, how are you feeling? And he goes, oh my God, I've got a lump on my head, I'm this, I'm that. He was in pain, cuts on his face. So Peter says, don't worry, I'm talking to Jesus, you'll be just fine. Meaning Brian. They have a conversation between them about Jesus. They're talking about Brian. Fred has phoned and... Anyway, so Peter waited... he didn't wait. He had to speak to Fred again a couple of days after this conversation. How are you going, mate? Fred says, I'm fine. The lump's gone down. The cuts have healed. he was completely restored, and he said to Peter, tell him thank you, knowing that Peter would be seeing us. So that's the creative force that each one of you have within you when you believe. Now the Jews have gone out of the way to divide the entire world so that all factions are fighting each other and that nobody believes the Christ. For the Christians out there who might be listening, although they're the first ones to reject, you know the scriptures which are accurate. Will he find faith on the earth when he returns? Well, I can tell you, if he were fronting up as the floaty ghost riding a 1,000-foot high horse in the clouds or whatever, there'd be plenty of faith on the earth. So how is it possible will I find faith upon the earth when he returns? That's because the way he comes is the way he went. The way he went as he was taken up in the clouds by an angel not visible to the human eye, under each arm the body of flesh containing the soul of God. The way he went was the same way he will return, as a man, through the body of flesh of his mother, who would immaculately conceive him, the Holy Ghost, once again. So you're reading the scriptures having no understanding. You cannot comprehend them at all.
Well, you're reading a Lucifer translation, right? Mm. It's not the Essene translation at all. That's the whole bloody point. You're reading a Lucifer document. They've taken some of the Gospels that comes out of the Essene and manipulated and tweaked them. Now, in doing so, you can then cross-reference that to looking at what the actual Essene Gospels are, which is much older, of course, and they were at the time as said, written down as said. So it was none of this 200 years later they're going to write it all down. I mean, Australia's 200 years old, right? So can you imagine someone walking around now yapping on about what Cook said to Bligh on the ship? Right? It's ridiculous. But the actual record is in the Gospels of the Essenes. The same with the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's got the original works of a copy of Isaiah, for example. Right? So who do you let translate it? Who do you let in control of it? What was this 7-day war all about? Right? They instantly went and took control of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were being translated under a guy called Allegro, a priest, and several other scholars. One was an American. And they immediately took them, and then they were forced, under outcry of the world, scholarly people, to hand them back to the church, which is the devil anyhow, the Catholic Church. They're not going to give you the truth either. That's why under the Vatican, you've got thousands and thousands of manuscripts that have all sorts of truth in it, yet you're not allowed to read it. In fact, if you want to go in there, you've got to get permission. They've got to ask you what you want to read first, and you go in with armed guards holding these great long spears, and there's a Swiss guard and a couple of priests if you want to go and look at anything in the Vatican's library. That's what it's all about. It's all bullshit. How are we going for time?
We've got about 5 minutes. Yes, 5 minutes would be good. 4 minutes.
4 minutes. So, do you want that, Joel? It's just going to go 4 minutes to go. Do you want to leave it there?
Yeah, if you finish, you might
All right. Okay.
So, all right, that's it for today.
Bye-bye.
A bit short. All good.
Watch out for the 22nd of June.
So sometimes when I'm in conversation with people and I talk about this whole global transformation that's happening, global change, shift in consciousness, I get the question, so where are we going? What are we trying to shift towards? What is this change all about? to me, the answer to that question comes as soon as you really observe the state of the world the way it is right now. When you look at the system we've created, it's kind of clear to see that we are programming ourselves to work against ourselves, against the natural state. We destroy each other at war, we destroy the nature surrounding us, we even convince ourselves that the natural state, who we naturally already are, is weak and imperfect. And we try to find everything and anything that can alter that. We do that with beauty products, with religion, we mess with the natural DNA of our food that we eat. We create identities for ourselves. And it seems like this has been implemented in our minds by the media. We're sold on the beliefs that natural is not good enough when it comes to natural cures. We trust the chemical industry and not what's already given to us by nature. We think natural is lazy. In our natural state, we would just be sitting on the couch and doing nothing with our days. We think natural is imperfect, it's ignorant, it's inappropriate. And most of all, we think that nature is separate from us. And this is really the condition that we are trying to move beyond. So this state of self-rejection, really, this kind of strive to become something else than who we naturally are, it has created a human race that is working against itself. A society that's trapped in stagnation, that forces individuals to really give up part of themselves just to conform to the system. And really this system, when you look at it, it's kind of designed to repress our true beingness, our natural flow of creativity that is very unique in each and every one of us, and it kind of standardizes it to a safe level, if you want to call it. We have an entire human race that kind of does not follow their true calling in life. We have the majority of people are just working at jobs they don't like just to survive, when they would much rather be doing something else with their time, something that appeals to them here at the heart level, something that, works out their creativity. And at what cost, really? We now have great engineers that will build weapons of war instead of working on technologies that could benefit the whole. We have artists that are very unique in their own way, but then as soon as they walk into the music industry, they're being shaped and modeled into the standard model of how the media want the youth to be influenced. So really this change is all about deprogramming ourselves to enter our natural state that we already all have within us. It's already present in every single one of us. Even the ones at the top of the hierarchy, which are the prime example of individuals who are completely have lost their touch to the natural state, to nature around them, to other human beings. It is inside of everyone. And that's why we're feeling the push now that, wow, wait a second, this world does not resonate with me. There's something off here, because we are getting closer and closer to the natural state. It's kind of bursting out of ourselves to make us see the unhealthiness of our current reality. And this transformation towards a more natural state is not only happening at a global level, it is starting with us, even at the personal level. And I can completely relate to this, because it seems in our lives lately, and I've spoken to a lot of people who are going through the same, a lot of personal challenges are showing up that are kind of revealing all of the mind stories, programmed belief systems, or emotional baggage that were kind of dormant in us, and now they're completely showcased to the surface. So we can let them go, 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 let them go. So just to create a clear picture of what I'm trying to say is, first of all, current reality, all based on separation. We are separate from nature, from each other, from ourselves even. We're putting so much effort into being something else than who we naturally are. So we have that huge disconnect between natures and ourselves. When in reality, what is our true nature? It is one with everyone and everything. It is one with nature, with the animal kingdom, with ourselves. It does not create any separation between this is my true self and this is the identity that I try to portray myself as in this world to be accepted, to be loved, etc. So this is basically what we're doing here. We're moving towards an unnatural state that is very divided to a natural state that is very full in itself